And you may have to accept it on your end, Dr. Amanda.
Got it.
We're all set. So we have a few questions for you, Dr. Amanda. Let me go to those. And we have some questions that we've already prepared. So let's talk about a personal journey. Can you share a bit about what inspired you to pursue a career in psychology and how your own experiences have shaped your approach to therapy?
Absolutely. So, a lot of folks that know me know that the majority of my family are veterans. I have pretty much, oh my goodness, I would say over 90%, including my husband, who have all served in the United States Armed Forces in some capacity. So, something I saw growing up was individuals coming back from being on deployment. Um, they changed. The cousins that used to be fun and all, they were withdrawn. And then I heard about the VA and some of the things that were going on there. So I saw some of their struggles, I saw some of their concerns, and that is what led me into psychology. I wanted to work in the VA and be that person that was on the other end for them when they came back to help support and to help kind of guide them and give them a space. So that's what got me on this track with psychology. As I began my work, I saw that there weren't that many African Americans in this field, especially here in Alabama. So that drove me even more so that I could give that voice and that perspective in the mental health field. Because I saw a Eurocentric type of approach, and that necessarily didn't work for a lot of people. Again, I really wanted to give those veterans that voice when it came down to their services and what they needed for their mental health.
Thanks for sharing that with us. And you mentioned something, you and I have had discussions before, specifically about, African American um, professional psychologists, clinical licensed psychologists at that, because there's a difference. Can you
Yes.
explain the difference of a psychologist and then you have a licensed clinical psychologist? Or is
So
there?
here Uh, in the state of Alabama, there is because you cannot, by the law set forth in the state of Alabama and many states, refer to yourself as a psychologist if you're not licensed. So if you're calling yourself a psychologist in the state of Alabama, then that means that you have gone through the Alabama Board of Psychological Examiners process, which means you have been vetted and um, it's almost like you're certified as saying, hey, I have the competencies put forth to do what I do in my job. It's just like going to a medical doctor. You would want to go to a medical doctor who is licensed by a board that says, hey, I have some oversight and some overhead for what I'm doing. So here in the state of Alabama, that's what that means. Now, if you work for certain agencies like a government or a state agency, they can have those titles, but only because it's a government or a state agency, because again, there are rules and regulations in place, and this is all to protect the public. So when you hear someone saying I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, that means they've gone through the proper protocols in their states under their board by their peers to be licensed and proven to be competent in what they're doing.
Nice, thank you.
Mhm.
We have DeShayla on with us as well, who is helping us to manage the platform since we have multiple things that are going on. DeShayla, do we have anything that's happening or any questions on social media at right now for Dr. Amanda?
At the moment, we do not.
Okay, thank you. Um, so let's talk more about the mental health stigma, Dr. Amanda. In your experience, what are some of the most persistent myths about mental health among veterans and women of color? And how do you address these misconceptions in your practice and public advocacy?
Yes, when you're looking at it, one of the biggest myths that I find, especially women of color and the veterans, is that coming in to seek mental health counseling means you're crazy. It means something's wrong with you, and it's seen as something that's negative. And we have to look at the cultural dynamics in this. If you're a person of color or you're someone who's served in the armed forces and now are a veteran, we're all taught within those kind of umbrellas to be strong. No, these are the individuals that women of color, they're the matriarchs usually in the family. They're the ones who everyone kind of goes to for support. Or on the other end, you have the veterans who they're used to taking care of other people. So when it comes down to reaching out for help or, hey, something's going on with me, I'm not quite feeling right. The mental health aspect is something that has a stigma of the shame because I'm weak in some way, and that weakness is seen as something that's negative. Or again, if I do have a mental illness, that means I'm crazy, and people are going to look at me like maybe I'm not competent or I don't know what I'm talking about. So it tends to make these individuals shy away from care that is helpful for them. What we do in our practice is we're upfront and honest about it, even with my practice being primarily women of color, who are all in their own rights and in their own disciplines licensed and working towards growing their competencies via other techniques and therapy, but just different ways that we're trying to reach out to the population, whether that's through art therapy, whether that's through yoga, whether that's through we have a what do they call the rage room that we have built. It's different ways to show that hey, you can express yourself, you can be seen, and you can be heard here, and it doesn't have to be, I guess, in the stereotypical way of coming laying down on the couch with this person with their notepad writing while they're in. So just by us existing, I think we're breaking that stigma because you have Black individuals, women of color, who are coming together to provide services for people that look like us.
Wow. So let's talk about the community impact. So
Mhm.
could you tell us about the founding of Avondale and Associates Psychological Services? What gaps did you see in the community that you wanted to fill, and how has your approach evolved since you started?
It's the gaps that I saw was that there was not a place where, again, individuals that look like us were heard. And the biggest gap that I saw in the community was that mental health was not a space for individuals of color. This was not a space where, I guess, veterans could go outside of maybe Veterans Administration Services or where women of color felt like they could go. So we provided that space for them. We provided a space where individuals can come in and feel comfortable, where they can see that, hey, this isn't a scary place. Everything from the colors to the music to the smells is all meant to be a relaxing but therapeutic environment. So that's something that we saw in the community, or I'm continuing to see, is that, hey, people want this space. People want to be somewhere where they can be heard. I keep saying be heard because this is something I hear that comes up a lot when individuals are going to, I guess, seek care. And this is not a jab at any other services because there are so many amazing clinicians out here. But just from our perspective, again, a lot of people that are coming in are seeking something different, something that is not already available and offered, and that's what we can provide. Even with services being in Spanish, the insurances that we accept, we allow access from more than just a physical environment, but even the financial aspect. We're making sure we're meeting people where they are so that financially, geographically, insurance wise, whatever the barrier can be, we're working to remove that.
Nice. And I tell you, I mean, simply stepping foot, into your office and meeting your team, as well is, as my term is amazing. I mean, you can feel a sense of comfort, and support as soon as you step in. So good job for what you've done, with Avondale and Associates Psychological Services. Now, you speak often about, cognitive behavior therapy, also known as CBT. So I know that, to my knowledge, you have utilized cognitive behavior therapy extensively, in your practice. How do you explain the benefits of this therapy to new clients? And could you share a success story where cognitive behavior therapy made a significant difference in someone's life.
Yes, absolutely. With my training, we all have, most psychologists have what they call a theoretical orientation. And that's mine, which is CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. And the reason I took that track was because it was what resonated with me the most. Again, this is not a jab at any other theoretical orientations because each has their benefits and I pull from them all. But this is kind of my foundation and my core. And I say that because it deals with our thoughts, it deals with our feelings, and then it deals with our behaviors. And one of the things that I find with most of us is we're in this all the time. We're in our heads. We're constantly thinking, we're constantly processing, we have so much that's going on. So that's what I like to kind of work with most people on is the thoughts. If we can get the mind right and we can challenge some of those unhelpful thoughts, then I've seen tremendous progress with a lot of individuals. I know you asked me for a success story. So, with one of my clients that I've been working with for quite some time, we look a lot at again, the thoughts, but one in particular, the emotional reasoning aspect, which is an unhelpful thinking process that a lot of us use. And that's well, I feel like they don't like me, or I feel like they said that because of fill in the blank with whatever. And I teach them how to challenge it. It's an unhelpful thought. What they found is that they're using this as a way to just say, you know what, they don't like me. Just say that. And how does that make you feel? Well, that makes me feel sad. That hurts. It causes them to stop avoiding the emotions because a lot of us have not been taught to tap into the emotional aspect. So when we learn how to separate the thoughts from the emotions, then we can impact the behaviors. Because I always ask, who told you that? Well, I just feel like that's what they think. Well, did they say that? Well, no, they didn't say that, but I feel like it. Well, no, we have to challenge that because I feel like it's not a feeling. They said that it's not the feeling. You feel embarrassed or you feel hurt because you think they don't like you. So that's one of the approaches that I use, and that's something that I found has been effective. And with that client, they've learned how to separate their thoughts from the reality, which then impacts how they interact with people around them. That's kind of the cliff notes of it. I hope I answered that question. I can go
Yes.
down a full rabbit hole on this, but that's just again the kind of short and sweet version of a little bit. It's a lot more to that, especially when we're challenging the thoughts, because a lot of those are core beliefs. These are things that have happened year after year, time after time, and then we have events that make them seem real. So we hold on to that as it's a fact and it's not. So that's kind of what I do within my realm of CBT without calling it that, is to help individuals learn the thoughts, the feelings, and to challenge those that aren't helpful for them.
Wow. I mean, very impactful. DeShayla, how are we looking on our social media platforms? Do we have any questions or comments at the moment?
No comments have arrived.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the role of emotions. Now, you emphasize teaching clients to read their emotions. Could you elaborate on how developing emotional intelligence, EI, can transform personal and professional relationships?
Absolutely. Again, when we are able to label the emotions, then that helps us to, I guess, be more in touch with what is actually going on. Again, we tend to feel air quotes a certain way that may or may not be valid. And I always tell my clients it's like taking a test and you have a fill in the blank test, and we have like the word bank over here. And we know you read the sentence, this is the word you put in to complete that sentence. And if there's once you're out, you're out. But what we tend to do is we fill in that word bank with things that aren't necessarily there. That if we were to put it in that sentence, it wouldn't make sense. And most people are able to get that. So when we are looking at emotional intelligence, that's something we have not been taught. Mostly everyone that comes and sits in my chair or on the sofa in my office do not have the words to truly, I guess, express how their emotions are impacting them. I have this feelings wheel, and all of my clients have a feelings wheel. And every time they come in, I'm like, no, I want you to point at this wheel. Like by the time they're done with me, you are going to know every feeling. And they end up writing some on there on themselves that go in. But I'm like, no, you're going to use these words of how you feel. Because again, we weren't taught that. We were taught to, I don't know, kind of suck it up. We were taught to just keep going, keep pushing, don't give up. We were taught to use prayer, which again, all of those are good things, but they don't teach us how to emote properly. But when we get to the point to where we can say, I feel tired, I am happy, I feel overwhelmed, that starts to really get us to be able to truly express ourselves and express where we are. And what tends to happen is the better people get at that, the better their connections are with others because they can express themselves. They feel empowered. And once they feel empowered, now they feel, I'm saying feel now. Once they are empowered, they are better able to advocate for themselves. So even I do this and I teach this all day long. We automatically revert back to the I feel. But they learn how to express themselves so that there is no gray area. And what again, I find that does professionally, feel more confident. We're able to go into that room with our heads up and we can speak to our needs. And ultimately, that's what I try to get people that I work with or people in my day-to-day life to see is that when we can express our needs and we can do that in a concise way, there's no room for error. And we're better able to get those needs met.
Wow. That's, sitting here listening to you from the personal journey, discussing the mental health stigma, the community impact, how you utilize cognitive behavior therapy. And then we're talking about just wrapped up talking about the role of emotions. You know, it, it's 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 it it comes to light to where, and it's also affirmative that you're very innovative, as far as in your overall practice, and the reason why you created your practice, which is Avondale and Associates Psychological Services. So, speaking about innovation, you know, being a disruptor, as far as in a space, what are some non-traditional and innovative therapeutic approaches that you have incorporated into your practice to better serve your clients' diverse needs?
I'm laughing because if any of my clients were to see this, I would love to hear what they say. Some of those things kind of happen spur of the moment. And one of the things I love about the people that we get here is that they're ready to do the work. And we're human too. Me as a psychologist, as a doctor, like all the titles I hold, I'm human. So I can have these real connections with my clients that I work with. So sometimes, honestly, I just have to tell some of my folks, I need you to sit down because you're doing too much.
Mhm. Mhm.
And again, because of the connection, because of that cultural aspect, we get it. I was talking to one of my clients in the session and I was like, well, at the end of the day, and they were like, well, the day gonna end. We kind of had that moment, but we bring a lot of laughter in. Um, our office manager, she's like, I would love to know what y'all talking about back there because I'm hearing laughter coming from all of the rooms. And I'm like, because we don't have to, yes, we talk about heavy things, but we can also laugh. We can also find those moments of joy. So when we're looking at the disruptors and all of these things, we're showing that it does not have to always be so serious. We can get down and meet people where they are. We can show our human sides as well because that's therapeutic in itself to be transparent in that room and to show, hey, I have moments too where I'm tired. Hey, I have moments where at the beginning of the session, I'm just like, whoo, this has been a day. I'm gonna take a breather, but we're gonna get to work. That aspect I find is something that individuals like is being genuine, being transparent. And that's something that I look for when I have practitioners coming in. That's something that I do myself, because if I can't make that connection, then I'm not going to have that trust. If I cannot be real and vulnerable and transparent in those moments, then how can I expect that? And as a licensed psychologist, I see this as a moment to model how we deal with certain things, how we deal with frustrations, how we can deal with being tired, how you can appropriately express yourself, and we can laugh and we can have fun, but we can still unpack some things that are very heavy for us too. So for me, that's what's very important in these moments. That's what we bring to the therapy room. It's just that realness. And I have some folks that like to talk about spirituality. I'm very open to that. And we have amazing conversations. I have some individuals, I talk to them about their businesses because they're business owners too. And, we talk about ideas and all. So it's treating the whole person. I don't come in and just see them as a treatment plan or as a node or as a disorder. It's more to that person. We're multifaceted, and that's the aspect that I hone in on, and I want to treat the whole person. I care about them more than just whatever is going on, say depression, anxiety, or trauma. They're more than just that. And we can help them to build all these other aspects of their lives as well.
Wow. We started off talking about stigma, and you kind of hinted, on this, and I want to circle back around, to that. Many people have, they don't want to go and see a psychologist because or let people know that they're seeing, because either their jobs or people they're connected to or outsiders will look at them. And did you use the word crazy?
Yes.
Okay. I want to use that word. I mean, just to kind of, so that the public, you're not calling people crazy.
No,
We're simply using what's on people's minds and and the
correct.
terms that they're using.
Right.
So, people don't want to appear crazy, right?
Mhm.
To say, okay, hey, I'm going to see my therapist, or I think another slang word would be what? Shrink.
Yes.
Okay? So let's talk about that a little bit. What advice would you give to someone who recognizes the need for mental health support, but may be hesitant to seek help due to financial concerns or fear of stigma? And I'm thinking about financial concerns, meaning, let's take that from a standpoint, okay, how much does it cost, right? From that
Right.
standpoint. And then also financial concerns, how is this going to affect my job or opportunities coming to me, because people think that I'm crazy if I'm
Mhm.
putting out that I'm seeing a therapist or a psychologist.
Yes, that's something that's very big and something that's a concern. I have some folks that come in and it's just like, look, hey, I want to pay out of pocket because they have that concern, and that's fine. I meet them where they are, but I also am firm too, and again, advocating for ending the stigma. The more we talk about it, the more we put this into people's faces, the more we make this the norm, the less it's going to be stigmatized. And I'm starting to see that shift, especially with our younger generation, because they will tell you quickly, oh, no, I have a therapist. Oh, I'm going to see. No, I got to talk to my therapist about. They're more open. I think it's more so getting people from certain schools of thoughts and certain mindsets, especially, I would say, maybe within the corporate realm, or individuals that have, I guess, higher positions, and could be in the military. Because that's something that can tend to be frowned upon. And in the military, there's a limited level of confidentiality, because if you are going to what they call behavioral health, then your commanding officers and pretty much everybody over you knows, and they have some access to know whether you're going to your treatment or not. So it's seen as something that can be negative. But what I want people to know is that it is okay. If we had a broken leg, we wouldn't just walk around dragging the broken leg. We would go to the doctor to get that care. And when it comes down to our finances, I get that, but we have insurance, and part of that insurance and part of companies having EAP is so that employees can have that assistance. Even companies are starting to shift their mindset. I think it's up to us in our positions to advocate for ourselves, to remove that veil that's there. I had a client that spoke to their job about their situation, and when an incident occurred, the job knew what to do. And the client did have some feelings of guilt and shame around that, but the company was completely supportive of them and offered them what they needed, contacted the proper people. So I think we can be surprised again if we have that emotional intelligence and we're advocating what can happen. And I think maybe sometimes a lot of that fear is internal versus what happens, especially if you're looking at a company that can't discriminate legally against someone who has protection under the ADA, that's the Americans with Disabilities Act. And mental health falls under that as well. So there's a lot again that is empowering in this aspect of, hey, if someone had high blood pressure or diabetes and their sugar went up or their pressure was up at work, no one would bat an eye. They would get them the medical care. Same thing with mental illness. And when we get to that point to where we can talk about it in that aspect and we can look at it from the medical sense, which is what is going on, I think the stigma will start to dissipate. I tell all of my clients, anybody that I talk to, I have a therapist. Her name is Miss Lewis. She is awesome. I see her once a month, more if needed, because we all need someone to talk to. And I'm very open about things in regard to my mental health and the things that I do. And that's why I think I'm able to speak on such a personal level because I know what it's like for me when I'm managing different things that are going on in my life. So when we can talk about it in that aspect, when other people can see, oh, you're a psychologist, you have this and another, and you have a therapist. Yes, absolutely, I do. And there's nothing wrong with us seeking that care when it's needed. I call it my tune-up sessions. I go in for my tune-up and I'm good. Sometimes there's some things that we address, and I'm just like, all right, Miss Lewis, here's you a sandwich and a soda. Let's sit down and cash this out. Other times it's just a check-in. But we do this all the time with our eyes. We go to the optometrist, we go to our doctors to get a checkup, we go to our dentist. But when was the last time we had our mental health check? If we can look at it again from the medical construct, I think that would begin to pull back a lot of the, I guess, archaic views of it being crazy or all these other things that have been put into place that are completely untrue.
Yes. COVID there were some pros and some cons to it. And let's speak about the pros, of COVID that happened. A lot of things started to happen virtually, right?
Mhm.
So if you weren't prepared technology wise, or if you were a little timid about future of anything, COVID speeded everything up, so let's talk about the future of psychology. How do you, and then also you're thinking about, I'm not going to name the company, but there are you listen to the radio and television, there are actual programs and apps that are out there that kind of do where there are multiple therapists that are all congregated, onto one particular app platform, and we're not going to name the company, but
Yes.
just see how companies are now taking advantage of the future of things and also technology. So from your point of view, how do you see the field of psychology evolving over the next decade, particularly with regard to technology and virtual therapies?
Yes, that's something I'm actually really excited about within psychology is that that's an area within the field of psychology where there was a stigma regarding what therapy looked like, right? You were supposed to come into the office, again, lay on the sofa, and we do it this way. And something that I love is that I can meet my clients literally wherever they are. Um, Distance is not a barrier. And that's something that is removing the lack of access. Now I can have somebody who is living in a rural area, which, that's something we see with mental illness, healthcare, mental health care, mental wellness, all of these aspects, it's limited because of the resources, because of distance, because of what's available in the community. So now we can reach people literally again wherever they are. So I haven't shied away from it. I think it's great because I've been able to do psychological evaluations via telehealth because now that is something that ethically we can do as long as you have the training and you have the programs on your computer. So I've been able to assist, veterans who are stationed somewhere or in the process of, retiring out into what they need. So again, it's something that I think is great. I've embraced it. It's something that we've done here in the office where I don't know, again, it goes back to access. We've upgraded our systems, upgraded the phones, we've upgraded everything that we needed to be able to handle the bandwidth so that, hey, if I have someone on the road and they can't make it in, we can pull over and we can do a virtual. Hey, you have a sick child at home or you aren't feeling so well, but you still need your session, you don't have to be here in office.
Mhm.
I hope I answered your question.
You did. You
I
did.
kind of try to go down a rabbit hole on that because it's so much with the technology aspect of it that I'm very excited about. Even now with intelligence testing, they're coming out with a new intelligence test that's going to better meet the needs of the population now. And so we're catching up with it again in psychology, where even now some of our measures are being updated to meet the needs and to meet the technological, can get that out, needs of individuals.
Wonderful. You hear the word work-life balance often these days. And it's and I think to me it's actually it's used, which is good. Yet I believe that many people is used so often, people are missing the sense of it or really understanding about how to apply it, into their lives. Many people may use work-life balance, almost kind of sarcastically as well. So as someone deeply involved in both your professional practice and also community service, how do you manage your work-life balance? And what advice can you offer to our viewers who are struggling in the area? You did mention about your therapist, as well.
Yes.
So are there any other advice that you can give to our listeners?
Absolutely. And I had this conversation with one of my interns where we were talking about self-care because that's what everybody's talking about. It's a buzzword. But what are we really doing when it comes down to caring for ourselves? I believe that we have to be very intentional, and I tell my clients as well, like, I don't see selfish as a bad word. I might get dinged on that by some folks, but we have to be also selfish in the aspect with our time where we are so protective of that time that we don't allow anything to interrupt that. So for myself, I have my weeks set now where I work for a certain amount of time and then I go to the gym. I love hot works. That's kind of my unwind. I'll go to get me a cup of coffee. I'll go get a cupcake. Everybody knows I love cupcakes, but I try to find every day a little pocket of time where I do something for myself because I think we've gotten to a point where we think it has to be something big and grand that we're doing. And no, that's not the case. If it's nothing but I pull up to the house and I just sit in my car and listen to some music before I go in. That's my moment of taking care of me. If it's, hey, you know what? I'm going to prepare my favorite meal or stop at a restaurant and treat myself, then that's to me taking care of myself. If it's no, I'm going to go get a massage and just or shut my phone down for an hour. Those are all things that we can do. Again, but we have to be very protective of that time. We have to be at a point to where we prioritize ourselves just that much to where that time is part of our daily routine. Just like we get up and go to work, we also have that time where we're doing something to pour back into ourselves. And I always challenge individuals I work with to find what that means for them, to try some new things. I would ask, when you were in your 20s or during their 20s, I'm like, when you were, much younger than this, what did you do for fun? What is something you have not done in a long time that you used to love doing? And I'm like, okay, well, go do that thing. What's stopping you? Oh, well, I have this, I have that. No, we make time for the things that we truly want to do. Again, we have to be very intentional, very planful. And like I said, all in a sense, a little bit selfish with that time for us to recharge. And I always tell people, I want you to start off 5 to 10 minutes. Then the next week, 10 to 20. Then after that, 20 to 30. We keep building up till we get to the point to where it's a natural habit for us. So work-life balance, yes, it can be difficult, but everybody has at least starting now 5 to 10 minutes where we can take to do something for ourselves. And we have to reshift that goes back into the CBT, our mindset and our thoughts around what that balance means. Because again, we think it means, oh, I have to take 4 or 5 hours. No, it's 4 or 5 minutes. Because if you can do that, we can build.
Thank you for sharing that with us. What I have learned to, because sometimes as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
get into the zone. There have
Yes.
been times in the past that I've gotten, and every once in a while you may have a really busy day. I'm not saying that some days that some days we don't. But I was at one point creating a habit to where I would miss my lunch, and just get into the zone with clients and deadlines and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I had to break away from that.
Yeah.
It wasn't healthy for me, and I also found it that I was uh, putting it out on loved ones, as well. So what I found helpful for me, I use technology, is I started putting reminders, on my phone, scheduling, 5 minutes
Yes.
throughout the day, either, hey, go outside, take your break, stretch, or whatever it is. And that has been so wonderful, a wonderful tool for me to help me to remind me, to do something throughout the day, get up, stretch, break away from the screen or whatever.
Yes.
And that's been helpful, for me. So thank you so much for that feedback. Now, one thing that to our listeners, I've known Dr. Amanda for a good while now, and we've worked on a few projects together. And really what she has done, all the questions that we have discussed today about personal journey, the stigma, the CBT, which is the cognitive behavior therapy, emotions, um, and also work-life balance, she's put it into a resource, into an interactive journal, and it's called, she's calling it the Blueprints Within. It's such a wonderful journal. And Dr. Amanda, you've recently introduced the Blueprints Within. It's an interactive journal designed to support self-discovery and healing. Can you share what inspired you to create this journal, and how do you envision it helping individuals, especially veterans and women of color, and those who have a negative their mental health journeys?
And so something I hope that could be a resource for everyone, regardless of where they are on their journey in regard to mental health, whether they have been, in therapy for years and are just kind of looking for something new, or whether they're kind of still in that pre-contemplation stage of, oh, this is something I want to try. I'm hoping that it's a tool that regardless of where anyone is, they can pick it up and see themselves in that. From the prompts to just the writing exercises, even withdrawing. I wanted to show individuals that there's more than one way that they can journal. It's more than one way to express themselves. And I tried to hit a lot of the common areas that come up when someone is coming in and they're sitting in my office and they're talking. And so this was just a development of a lot of themes that I saw with my veterans, a lot of things that I saw with the ladies and the women of color that are coming in, that were happening over and over and over again. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Like, these are all different people, different ages, different backgrounds, a lot of differences, but again, these are the common themes. So that's kind of where I came in, and I saw a lot of people coming in with a lot of journals. Some of them were absolutely amazing. Some of the journals were not my cup of tea, so to speak. So I hope to give a resource to them that comes from my perspective, from my level of competence in my field, that has been kind of tried and true in my sessions that could help them again in those various aspects of their lives.
Outstanding, outstanding. Dr. Amanda, thank you. This has been very, very impactful, wonderful reminders. You certainly are using your talent to help humanity. Thank you. Thank you for what, excuse me, for what you are doing to help humanity through your profession and what you love to do. How can any of our viewers who are tuning in, how can they contact you? Phone number, website address, all of that, whichever that you would like to share.
Yes, absolutely. So my phone number is 1-334-398-8516. And we're usually in office from 8 a.m. each day until about 3:30 p.m. After that time, we don't have anybody kind of manning the phone system, but we do have voicemail on there. So feel free to leave a voicemail. And we also have our website, which is Avondale, that's AVONDALE ASSOC.com. Or you can reach us via email, that's info@avondaleassoc.com.
And we'll place all of that, since we're recording this, we'll place this also in the comments on the social media feeds, and then also we'll post your contact information on our YouTube channel, as well. So, DeShayla, do we have any questions to come in?
No, we did not have any questions come in.
Okay, thank you for managing that for us. So, as we wrap up tonight's enlightening conversations on Voices of Victory, Tales from the Trenches of Mental Health, I want to express my deepest gratitude. I'm Christopher D. Thomas, and it's been a privilege to host this transformative discussion. Firstly, a huge thank you to all of you who tuned in and engaged with us live. Your presence and participation make these conversations possible and meaningful. Dr. Amanda Lewis-Yarbrough, thank you for sharing your invaluable insights, for your tireless dedication to mental health advocacy. And your work truly, truly makes a difference. And we are all better for having heard your stories and expertise tonight. To those of you who have shared or will be sharing this feed to your personal social media outlets, thank you. We are helping to spread critical knowledge and awareness that can empower many around the globe. We're always looking for ways to improve and to bring you more content that you care about. So please, please leave us a feedback, recommend other professionals or influencers that we should interview, that you want to recommend, or suggest topics that we should discuss, and find experts to come on with us. Your input is crucial in shaping in-city streaming. We also invite businesses and brands who share our vision and values to partner with us. Together, we can expand our reach and our impact, creating content that not only informs, but also inspires and motivates. So thank you again for joining us on In-City Streaming. Until next time, keep nurturing, collaborating, and trusting in the power of community. That's it. Good night.